It all started on a warm Saturday morning, the kind of day my grandpa loved most. The air smelled like fresh bread from the market down the street, mixed with the earthy scent of rain still clinging to the pavement. I was sitting on the porch, sipping coffee, when Grandpa grabbed his old straw hat and said, "Gonna head to the market, son. The tomatoes looked good this week." I smiled, watching him shuffle off with his wooden cane and that same proud grin he wore every weekend. The market was his world. Everyone knew him there. He wasn't just a shopper, he was part of the rhythm of the place. Kids waved at him, vendors called his name, and even the pigeons seemed to follow him around. It was simple, beautiful, and pure until that morning when everything changed. I was washing my mug when my phone buzzed. A vendor friend of mine, Leo, texted, "Hey, something's up at the market. Your grandpa's arguing with that HOA lady." And my heart sank instantly. HOA lady, that could only mean one person, Karen. Everyone in town knew her. She had that sharp voice that could slice through metal and a clipboard she wielded like a weapon. I didn't waste a second. I grabbed my jacket and ran out the door, my boots slapping against the wet pavement as I made my way down the street. The market came into view, and I could already hear the commotion. A small crowd had gathered near the entrance, voices low and tense. As I pushed through, I saw Grandpa standing there calm but firm while Karen stood with her hands on her hips, blocking his path like she owned the place. "Sir, I told you, this market is for residents only," she barked, her tone dripping with that fake politeness that made everyone's skin crawl. Grandpa frowned, clutching his shopping bag. "I've been coming here for 20 years, he said quietly. "What's changed?" Karen smirked and tapped her clipboard. "New regulations, no outsiders, no exceptions. We're keeping standards high around here." The crowd murmured in disbelief. A few vendors tried to speak up, but she silenced them with one glare. I could see Grandpa's hand trembling, not from fear, but from anger he was trying so hard to control. I stepped forward, but I didn't announce myself yet. I wanted to see how far she would go. Karen crossed her arms and leaned in closer to him. "You people think rules don't apply to you," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. My stomach turned at her tone, so smug, so certain she was untouchable. Grandpa tried to stay calm. "I'm not breaking any rule," he said. "I just came to buy my bread and apples like always." Karen scoffed, looking him up and down. "Well, not today. You're banned. Maybe next time you'll read the notices before waltzing in here." She turned to the security guard, a young man who looked unsure, and snapped, "Escort him out." That was my breaking point. I couldn't watch anymore. I walked out from the crowd, my boots echoing against the concrete. "Excuse me," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. Karen turned, eyebrows shooting up when she saw me. "And who are you supposed to be?" she asked. I looked straight at her, then at Grandpa, and felt something inside me tighten. "Just someone who doesn't like bullies," I said evenly. The crowd shifted, eyes darting between us. Karen laughed, that shrill fake laugh that grated on everyone's nerves. "Oh, please, mind your business, young man. This is HOA property, and your grandpa isn't welcome here anymore." My jaw clenched, but I didn't say anything, not yet. I just needed her to keep talking, and she did, louder, prouder, unaware that the ground beneath her ego was about to collapse. Karen tilted her head, sizing me up like she was dealing with some teenager caught sneaking in. "You don't look like a member of this community," she sneered, gesturing at my worn jacket. "So unless you've got some business here, I suggest you leave before I call security on both of you." The guard hesitated, glancing between us, but Karen's glare pinned him in place. "Do your job," she snapped. My grandpa tried to speak up, but I gently put a hand on his shoulder. "It's okay," I said softly. "Let's just see how far she's willing to go." Inside, though, my blood was boiling. Every word out of her mouth felt like nails dragging across metal. The crowd was silent, waiting. Even the vendors had stopped ringing up customers. It was like the air had frozen. Karen started walking around Grandpa like a vulture circling prey. "We can't have people like you loitering around, disrupting our image," she said, her voice full of that condescending tone she was famous for. Grandpa looked down, shoulders sagging just a bit, not from shame, but from exhaustion. I'd seen that look before, back when he lost his wife, my grandmother. That quiet ache that came from being humiliated by someone who thought they had power. I clenched my fists, breathing through my nose. Every part of me wanted to shout the truth right there, but I wasn't going to waste it. Not yet. A vendor named Maria finally spoke up, wiping her hands on her apron. "Karen, that's enough," she said firmly. "Mr. Harris has been shopping here longer than you've lived here." Karen turned on her like a snake. "And that's exactly the problem," she hissed. "This place has standards now. We're not running some street market for—" She caught herself mid-sentence, realizing the crowd was listening, her words teetering dangerously close to exposing her bias. But it was too late. The tension was electric now. I could hear people whispering, phones recording. She noticed, too. Her eyes flicked around nervously before she straightened her blouse and forced a smile. "Rules are rules," she said stiffly. "No exceptions." That's when she pulled out a folded paper from her clipboard. "Here," she said, waving it like a badge of honor. "This document states the new entry policy, signed and approved by the Homeowners Association." She thrust it at me, expecting me to back off. I took it, unfolding the paper slowly, scanning every line. The logo at the top, the same one I'd personally approved last month. My company's logo. I felt a smirk tug at the corner of my mouth. The crowd noticed my change in expression, curiosity spreading through them like wildfire. Karen crossed her arms again. "See, proof. Now get your old man out of here before I fine him for trespassing." I folded the paper neatly and handed it back. "You said this market is HOA property, right?" I asked calmly. Karen nodded, smug. "Yes, and as the HOA market manager, I make sure it stays clean and exclusive." I stepped a little closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "That's funny," I said, "because the deed of ownership for this market doesn't say HOA anywhere on it." Her face twitched. "Excuse me," she said, her voice cracking slightly. I took a step back and raised my voice so everyone could hear. "This market belongs to Harris & Co. Properties. That's my family's business." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Karen froze, color draining from her face. I turned toward Grandpa and smiled. "So technically, ma'am, you just banned the owner's grandfather from his own property?" The silence that followed was almost painful. Even the birds on the lamppost seemed to stop chirping. Karen blinked rapidly, trying to regain her composure. "That's impossible," she stammered. "I checked the records. Clearly not well enough." I interrupted. "I took over ownership 3 months ago when we bought the block, including this market. The HOA rents the surrounding lots, not the market." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The crowd started whispering again, louder this time. Maria folded her arms, a smug smile spreading across her face. "Guess that means he's allowed to shop here, huh?" she said. Karen's jaw tightened. Her clipboard trembled in her hands as her fake authority began to crumble right there in front of everyone. I looked around at the people, the vendors, the shoppers, the neighbors, all watching this self-appointed queen finally realize she was standing on sand. I turned back to her, keeping my voice calm but firm. "And now," I said, "are you going to apologize to my grandfather, or do I need to show everyone the contract that proves you've been overstepping your authority for months?" Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. For a moment I thought she might actually faint, but instead she forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Let's step aside and talk about this privately," she said weakly. I shook my head. "No, you humiliated him in public. You can apologize right here in front of everyone." Her hands clenched the clipboard until her knuckles turned white. The crowd started murmuring in agreement. "Apologize," someone shouted. Then another voice echoed it. "Yeah, apologize." It spread like wildfire, a chorus of justice rising from the people she'd bullied for so long. Karen's face turned bright red, her eyes darting around like a trapped animal. I could see it in her pride battling shame, authority slipping through her fingers like sand. She swallowed hard, took a shaky breath, and turned to my grandpa. The tension was unbearable. Every sound magnified: the fluttering of paper, the buzz of a fly, the pounding of my own heart as I waited for her next move. Karen's lips trembled as she opened her mouth, the crowd now dead silent. I may have overstepped," she muttered, voice barely above a whisper. Grandpa didn't say a word. He just stood there, straight, backed with that quiet strength he always carried. "Louder," I said softly. They didn't hear you? Her eyes shot daggers at me, but she knew she was cornered. I'm sorry, she said finally, forcing the words out like they burned her tongue. I didn't realize who he was. A wave of murmurs rolled through the market. Grandpa tilted his head slightly. You shouldn't have to know who someone is to treat them with respect, he said calmly, his voice steady and cutting through the tension like a blade. Karen's face twitched, but she didn't respond. That sentence hung in the air heavy, true, and impossible to ignore. I stepped forward, taking the clipboard gently from her hands. You've been enforcing policies that don't exist, I said. Removing vendors, banning residents, collecting fees the HOA never approved. I've got statements from half these people already. She stiffened, panic flickering in her eyes. You can't prove that, she snapped, voice rising again, desperate now. I held up my phone. Actually, I can. Every transaction logged through your Market Pass system is on this device, and you left quite a trail. Gasps filled the air again. Karen stumbled back a step, her perfect posture faltering for the first time. The guard beside her shifted uneasily, clearly realizing his boss was finished. Grandpa looked at me, eyes full of pride but also sadness. He never liked confrontation, even when he was right. But this was more than just about him. It was about everyone she'd bullied, fined, or embarrassed over the months. Maria came forward, folding her arms. I knew she was taking extra cuts from our booth fees, she said. Said it was for beautification projects. Karen spun toward her. You can't just actually. I cut in, she can. We'll be conducting a full audit starting tomorrow. Until then, consider yourself suspended from any HOA or market activity. Her face drained of color. You can't fire me, she shrieked. I raised an eyebrow. I'm not firing you. I'm the property owner. I'm revoking access. Her mouth dropped open. The guard quietly stepped aside, clearly wanting no part in her downfall. Karen looked around wildly, but the crowd she once controlled now just stared back, arms crossed, silent witnesses to her humiliation. She let out a shaky breath and stormed off, her heels clicking angrily against the concrete. The market slowly came back to life, vendors calling out again, people clapping softly, whispers of relief passing through the air. Grandpa exhaled and looked at me with a small smile. Didn't know you'd make such a dramatic scene, he said. I chuckled. Guess it runs in the family. We walked through the aisles together, the smell of baked bread and fresh fruit returning to the air. People greeted him, shook his hand, offered him apples and tomatoes as gifts. Karen's shadow no longer loomed over the place. It felt lighter, freer, like the heart of the market was beating again. I turned to Maria and handed her the clipboard. We'll set up a proper community board, I said. One that actually listens to people. She nodded, smiling through tears. Grandpa paused near his favorite stand, picking up a ripe red apple. You know, he said quietly, your grandmother used to say that respect is the one currency that never loses its value. I looked at him, letting that sink in. The crowd around us started cheering, not loud or chaotic, but warm, genuine. It was more than just celebration, it was relief. Karen's reign was over, and balance had been restored in the simplest way possible with truth. Grandpa took a bite of the apple, the crunch echoing in the air, and smiled like the world had just come back into focus. I slipped my hands in my jacket pockets, watching him as the market buzzed with life again. This wasn't just about proving a point, it was about reminding everyone, including myself, that no title or clipboard could ever replace integrity. The smell of bread, the laughter of vendors, the morning sun breaking through everything felt right again, just like it should have always been.